From econoboxes to luxury cars, there have been some serious automotive design failures over the years, plagued with everything from recalls for door latches and exploding airbags to transmissions locking up and engines exploding. It could feel like there are too many components in a car that can go wrong, but of all the issues you can run into, having a doomed motor is perhaps one of the worst. It doesn't matter if you have 2 cylinders or 12. Eventually, a major component is going to grenade and leave you stranded. And while most cars have 100,000 miles on their odometer before trouble starts, certain engines suffer from birth defects right from the get-go, whether it's due to poor engineering, materials, assembly techniques, or any combination of the three. Well, luckily for you, you clicked on this video, because today you're going to learn about the worst engines of all time. First on the list is the Audi VW 1.8T 4-cylinder turbo. The 1.8-liter turbo 4-cylinder from Volkswagen was found in just about everything the carmaker sold at one time, plus some models of the Audi including the A4 and the TT Coupe. Unfortunately, the engine was an epic disaster, with sludge formation being a real threat. Apparently, Volkswagen didn't inform its owners that the engine required synthetic oil, as owners and dealers proceeded to use conventional oil after the break-in period. The usual sludge issues appeared and the engine failed in considerable numbers. Models from 1997 to 2004 were affected. Add this to high oil consumption and frequent coil pack failures, and you've got one troublesome motor. Up next, we have the Mitsubishi 3-cylinder engine. An abysmal 78 horsepower and 74 pound-feet of torque are all you're going to get out of the Mitsubishi Mirage's naturally aspirated 3-cylinder. And yes, that's the latest GT model we're talking about. Car and Driver may have summed up this sad machine best in 2016, saying, quote, "There's basically nothing to make a driver happy at the helm of a Mirage. The 1.2-liter sewing machine of an engine has extremely slow acceleration, and critics claim that highway passing with this car is both time-consuming and dangerous. Buyers can also expect a great deal of racket coming from the motor itself, with one critic at Kelley Blue Book referring to it as more noise and vibration and harshness than you'll get by putting bolts in a blender." Up next, we have the Saab 2.0 and 2.3-liter 4-cylinder turbo. The 2002 2.0 and 2.3-liter 4-cylinder turbo engines are known for their nasty oil sludge problem. Carbon buildup on the engine's thin oil screen starved it of oil, resulting in complete engine failure. Furthermore, the engine's catalytic converter being mounted below the oil sump nearly deep-fried the motor. Saab recommends removing the sump for a thorough cleaning. Of course, that's if your engine's still running. Sadly, these aren't the only fatal setbacks. These engines are also notoriously known for direct ignition failures and cylinder head gasket leaks as well. Up next, we have the Lexus 2.5-liter V6. This lackluster motor from the previous generation IS250 was anything but athletic. Power came from a lacking 2.5-liter V6 that was both undersized and overly constricted by power-robbing emission systems, leaving both critics and drivers underwhelmed. On a good day, this V6 produced 204 horsepower and 185 pound-feet of torque, which is barely more than the old Honda Civic Si, and that car was a 4-cylinder. In 2013, reviewers referred to the old Lexus 250 as neither sporty nor luxurious, and dinged it heavily for having acceleration that, quote, lacks punch. Up next, we have the Subaru 2.0 and 2.5-liter engine. Both the 2.0 and 2.5-liter versions of the naturally aspirated boxer engine from Subaru have been objects of scrutiny in recent years due to excessive oil consumption. Initially waved off as something that, quote, Subaru engines do, owners were told that they did not need to worry if they added a quart of synthetic oil every few thousand miles. If the idea of a brand new engine burning oil right off the lot concerns you, it should. It even led to Uncle Sam stepping in. The tipping point came in 2016, when Subaru finally admitted guilt and agreed to reimburse owners for repair costs and extended the length of their warranties. In a public statement, Subaru confessed that a defective piston ring would cause some 2011 and 2015 vehicles to excessively burn oil, prompting a lawsuit that alleged that Subaru knew about the problem, but neglected to tell owners, resulting in dealers having to replace countless numbers of short blocks. Up next, we have the Nissan 2.5-liter 4-cylinder. The pre-catalytic converter built into the exhaust manifold of the Nissan's 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine can reportedly disintegrate as it ages. The ceramic material gets sucked back into the motor, causing increased oil and coolant consumption, and eventually engine self-annihilation. It's a big problem among the 2002 and 2003 2.5-liter four-cylinder Altimas, as well as Sentras with the same motor. Then came word Altimas and Sentra SCRs equipped with the same engine built between January and May 2006 may experience unusually high oil consumption. This can lead to premature engine failure and possibly a fire. Owners are advised to check their engine oil level frequently. This motor also reportedly loves to ingest the screws from the butterfly valves and the intake runners, another hazard that can score the engine's cylinder walls. Up next, we have the Mopar 2.2-liter. Its marketing campaign may have made it look like a winner, but the Mopar 2.2 quickly became known as the rod knocker. With multiple failures rolling in, Mopar did the unthinkable and added a turbo on it. This might have been okay if it remained under the hood of Dodge Chargers, but Mopar chose to share it across the entire product line, from the full-size Chryslers to the insanely popular minivans. Literally millions of turbo 2.2 engines were produced, and while many survived, a good percentage caused headaches for owners and service techs alike. However, once the Mopar 2.2 was upgraded with forged internals and aftermarket add-ons, the 2.2 turbo actually became a solid engine with surprising amounts of tuning potential. Unfortunately, it took failures of thousands of earlier engines to bring on these revisions. Up next, we have the Chevy 2.2-liter Ecotec. Offered in everything from the Cavalier to the S10 pickup, press reviews at the time urged buyers to stay away from these engines due to poor performance. The four-cylinder engine was infamous for refusing to provide power or reliability, instead insisting on things like fresh head gaskets and timing chain components. While a lack of power and durability were troublesome, corroding steel freeze plugs after 50,000 miles were one of the first-generation Ecotec's major weaknesses. While the new 2.2-liter Ecotec proves to be a formidable engine, it's the pre-2006 generation that you have to watch out for. Next on the list is the Oldsmobile V8 diesel, often referred as the diesel debacle. This converted gasoline engine was popular throughout the GM family, and even found its way into top-of-the-line Cadillacs with disastrous results. Buyers just didn't see horrible performance. With a pitiful 120 horsepower and 220 pound-feet of torque, they also got one of the most problematic engines in history, which some still blame for ruining America's interest in diesel cars. Engine failures were commonplace, and while this engine's reinforced block was bulletproof, inferior head bolts began to murder off thousands of cars. And from there, things only got worse. Hydrolock from leaking head gaskets and a sloppy fuel pump timing chain caused catastrophic failures after just 30,000 miles. Eventually, a class action lawsuit was filed. In fact, the Oldsmobile V8 diesel became so infamous that it inspired legislators across the country to draft the nation's first lemon laws. Last and not least, we have the first Ford V8. Introduced in 1932 with a whopping 65 horsepower, Henry Ford's first V8 promised to move America more rapidly. The iconic Ford Flathead was the first V8 engine and remained in production for over 20 years. But history could have turned out very differently, because this engine had 4 fatal design flaws. First, the engine's piston rings weren't made of a properly hardened steel, causing the engine to burn oil at a brisk rate. Secondly, the poorly designed cooling system caused the back cylinders to always run hotter than the rest. Third, the intake manifold produced a meager air-fuel ratio, resulting in an MPG of 10 miles per gallon. Lastly, inadequate water cooling and leaking water pumps all made this engine one everybody should avoid. Well guys, those are the worst engines of all time. Let me know what you guys think of the list. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Also, if you like what you see at the channel, subscribe. Also, don't forget to put post notifications on so you don't miss an upload. Until next time.